Leslie Wells, Connection Coach here. I help individuals look at their relationships and try to figure out how they can show up better in them, improve, and thrive in their relationships by looking at things through an attachment lens. One thing that I actually get is a lot of dismissive avoidance that reach out and say, okay, I recognize that I have a problem or just got out of a relationship and realized that I'm the problem. What do I do now? So where does my work start? So we're going to answer that question. One of the things that is key for dismissive avoidant to be able to do is to learn to receive feedback about yourself and about your relationship without taking it as criticism. That is something that really you have to build the capacity to do it, because the thing with dismissive avoidance is they tend to have an inner defectiveness or broken wound. So they inherently think that they are broken and something is wrong with them because when they were children, their parents were not emotionally attuned to them, meaning that they may have been present, they may have run them all around to their sporting events or given them money or encouragement whenever they got high honor roll, encouraged them in school. They may have done all the day-to-day things to show up for their kid physically, but they weren't very good at dealing with their emotions. So if they had a breakup with a girlfriend or a boyfriend when they were younger, they weren't necessarily empathetic and helped that child to process that. If they were a toddler and they had a tantrum, instead of helping them experience that, helping them process that, and showing empathy for that, they would say, if you're going to cry, go in your room and cry. I don't want to hear it. Or if they got hurt, you're fine, get up, you'll be fine. They dismissed their emotions. And so when they did have these emotions, they didn't see them modeled through their caregiver. And they were either shut down, criticized, punished, or dismissed when they had their own emotions. And so they began to have this feeling that they're defective for having these emotions, and definitely for displaying any emotions, because no one around them was doing that. They were stuffing their emotions or dismissing them. And so they started to feel like they couldn't get their needs met or their emotional needs met. And so they were defective and broken inside. And something's wrong with them for feeling the things that they felt. So whenever somebody brings them feedback about themselves or the relationship, they automatically tend to take it as criticism, because they already feel like they're defective, they're not good enough, they're broken, they're never going to be able to show up well in relationships or meet someone's needs. So when somebody brings them criticism, they see that as confirmation that they're a failure in relationships, they're not good enough, they're broken, they're not going to get it right, and that here it is, I really can't meet this person's need. They always have a problem with me. I'm never going to get it right. Why even try? That's their inner dialogue. The problem is to be able to live with another person and to be in a relationship with another person and create intimacy and safety, you have to be able to receive feedback about what works and what's not working for both people. So if you think of it as a job and you're a manager, you have to keep a pulse on what's going on with your people in order to know if you are managing in a way that speaks to them, works for them, and if they are getting what they need out of that job, right? If they're feeling fulfilled in that job, if they're feeling satisfied in it, it's got to work for both the manager and the employees to have a really good, healthy working relationship. It's the same way in romantic relationships. If you're not keeping a pulse on what's going on with your partner in the relationship, and you're not able to openly speak about those things that are not working well so that you can pivot and find solutions and figure out how to get everybody's needs met and everybody feel good and safe within the relationship, you're going to have problems. So there's this big epidemic that's going on right now where women are silently quitting. And what that is a lot of women are filing for divorce right now. And there's a lot of dismissive avoidant men out there because they were brought up that way, and society sort of teaches them to be that way because we teach men to suppress their emotions. And so you have all these women that are divorcing all of a sudden, and the men are left there thinking, what in the world happened? I thought everything was okay. Here's what's happening. The women have gone up to their spouses over and over again, trying to express their needs, trying to express what's going on, and they're not being heard. They are met with criticism and then a shutdown, and this is something that a dismissive avoidant typically does. They will push back with a little bit of criticism back, or they'll sort of fight back at first, and then they will shut down, withdraw, and disassociate. And so at some point in time, the women give up, and they're like, I keep bringing this person my needs, I keep trying to explain what needs to change, nothing's happening, this person doesn't care. And then they eventually detach within the relationship, and they've already grieved the marriage by the time they actually file for divorce. Now, somewhere when they stop actually asking for their needs and they quit nitpicking and nagging and getting bigger and doing all these protest behaviors to be heard and seen to try to get their partner to meet their needs, they stop. And when they stop, the avoidant partner thinks, oh, this is great. Everything's working out now, because they have on blinders. They're not very emotionally attuned. And so they're just thinking everything's okay, when in reality, the relationship is falling apart because they were not able to hear the feedback, to hear criticism, to hear information and insight to make a change. I fully recognize that there's a lot of women that play a role in this too, and this is not a one-sided thing whenever a marriage deteriorates, but I'm just trying to give you the concept of what happens when somebody tries to bring something to a dismissive avoidant and they are unable to receive feedback, and how detrimental it can be over a long period of time or a relationship that has any longevity. The problem in the situation that I described is that because the partner eventually feels like there's absolutely no way for them to give feedback, they suffer in silence, and then eventually the relationship completely deteriorates, and the relationship sort of dies off in silence and they don't see it coming. Or their partner continues to get bigger and bigger and meaner and nastier and starts to lose themselves and their secure attachment, trying to be heard and seen so that they can have the relationship change so that everybody feels good in the relationship. So the key work for the dismissive avoidant is to really recognize when there's criticism actually coming from the partner and how to address that with curiosity versus getting defensive or feeling like you're not good enough. We have to change those inner beliefs and those inner dialogues and our attachment wounds that lead us to shut down, withdraw, and go into a trauma response every time we feel like we're hearing criticism. And part of that is nervous system regulation, because you can't just snap out of a trauma response. You have to actually have tools in place before you're in a state of crisis and before you go into that trauma response that you have to practice regularly before criticism or feedback is actually brought to you. The other thing is recognizing when you're projecting something as criticism, when your partner is in fact not coming at you critically and they have no intentions of criticizing you or trying to point the blame at you. They're just genuinely trying to work out a problem with you as a team. And we have to be able to look at ourselves and be like, is this on me? Am I projecting this onto them because I have this inner defectiveness wound, this brokenness inside of me that I believe that I'm never going to get it right and that I'm not enough? Because your partner probably doesn't believe that. Otherwise, they would have no reason to even bring you the problem, right? Why bring you the problem, bring you the insight, bring you the feedback if they don't feel like you can fix it or do anything with it? It's not until they quit bringing you that they truly have given up, that there's any hope of you fixing it and you showing up well for them. It's really your own self-hindering beliefs telling you that you're not going to be able to do what they need you to do. So you have to recognize that you are your worst critic. And if somebody's bringing you something to work on, you got to be able to build capacity to hear that and not take it critically. So that's some of the work of the dismissive avoidant.